Hey, what's up, guys? This is David Chase Taylor, 911truther.org. Today is February 3rd of 2026. So, based on breaking news and events, it appears the CIA headquarters located beneath CERN at Lake Geneva in Switzerland is going to stage World War III on the date of February 4th of 2026. In other words, Geneva, Switzerland has greenlit a major act of war, terror attack, or invasion, specifically designed to trigger a declaration of war as pretext for global war on this particular numerology. Of course, the date of February 4th, 2-4 equates to the X in the English alphabet, which is the international symbol of death, and that is because the CIA is going to basically, this is how we know Switzerland is in charge, is because they control the strings on the various puppets around the world, and we're going to see that manifest itself in reality on the date of February 4th. So exactly what is planned is obviously not known, but a Russian offensive targeting NATO nations, an Iranian attack targeting the United States or Israel, a Chinese attack on Taiwan, a North Korean attack on South Korea and or U.S. forces in South Korea, and or a Pakistani attack targeting India is expected. That being said, I believe that there's two major plots, and I'm going to expose this in a second. And this is basically a false flag that's going to be executed by the Israeli Mossad, the Israeli Navy, and the Israeli Air Force, and the Israeli Defense Forces, specifically to trigger a NATO-Russo war and an Iranian war with Israel and the United States. So I'm going to get into that in a minute. But first, I just want to highlight for the record that this impending event that's going to transpire somewhere around the world on the date of February 4th is going to be chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear in nature. It's likely going to be framed as an act of war or an act of terrorism, and it's specifically designed to spawn a second global biological pandemic and or trigger all-out nuclear World War III. And of course, similar to the Roman mantra, by deception thou shalt do war, the mantra or the motto of the Israeli Mossad is also by deception thou shalt do war. So what we're going to expect on February 4th is a full-scale Israeli military offensive targeting up to 5 continents. So unbeknownst to most people, the Israeli military, which has basically been a parasite on the United States, militarily speaking, because we fund basically their entire military, they have been privy to prototypes from various defense contractors, including their own, as well as ships which have been allegedly salvaged, as well as their own fleet. And those include what are called they're German-made Dolphin-class submarines that are in the Israeli Navy. And that's key because essentially the subs can go off the coast of Taiwan and launch a full-scale attack on Taiwan, and then it be framed as a Chinese attack on Taiwan. They can target the U.S. Armada that's off the coast of Venezuela and then say it was a Russian attack. They can attack Iran and then say, or they can attack Israel and say it was Iran. They can use these submarines in any way, shape, or form, and that's key because the origin of the attack is not known. And the notion that Israel would stage a false flag attack targeting the United States and or her allies is corroborated by the fact that back on June 8th of 1967, Israeli Air Force and Israeli Navy launched a full-scale attack targeting the USS Liberty while sailing in the Mediterranean Sea off the coast of the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt, and killed hundreds of Americans and almost sank the ship. That was their goal. Luckily, that didn't happen because those soldiers lived to tell about this horrific attack by Israel. So this is what's going to happen on February 4th, and it's going to be masked as a Russian or Iranian attack. So in this impending event, it's going to be absolutely horrific, and the videotape of this attack is going to be used and broadcast on every Jewish media platform in the world, every Zionist media outlet in the world, to trigger World War III. And we know that it's going to be orchestrated because it's nefarious and it's secretive and it's a false flag. It's going to be executed or greenlit on the ground by Jewish Zionist Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine and Jewish Zionist Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. What this attack is going to manifest itself as in reality, it's obviously not known, but it's likely going to involve blister agents, blood agents, choking agents, chemical agents, conventional weapons such as bombs, missiles, etc., nuclear weapons, and or radiological weapons. And this is likely going to be, as I mentioned, a false flag attack from the waters off the coast of a country, so the origins will not be known because it's a false flag, and so it's likely going to feature 9/11 kamikaze suicide drone bombing attacks launched from drone carriers or submarines, ballistic missile strikes, drone strikes, hypersonic missile strikes, cruise missile strikes, strategic bombing attacks likely via the Israeli Air Force, stratospheric injections, which is basically where planes fly over and spray a mist of chemicals down onto the ground. It could be gravity bombs, such as World War II style, where they drop missiles in mass, or it could be rocket attacks. That being said, it's not out of the question, considering that Israeli Mossad is executed the 9/11 attacks. It's a 9/11 style attack that's subsequently blamed on Iran, Russia, North Korea, China, Pakistan, etc., is also not out of the question. But a nuclear event is in fact expected on this particular date. In respect to the Russo-NATO war, the CIA has been desperately trying to trigger this war, staging all sorts of false flags. A few of the most recent, just in the last 24 hours, was a false flag Russian bombing attack targeting Ukrainian trains. Another one was a false flag Russian nuclear warhead laden Russian drone attack targeting NATO bases in Finland, Estonia, and Poland. The CIA has also staged multiple drone incursions, allegedly scapegoated onto Russia. They also blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. There's been all sorts of acts of terrorism to try to trigger this NATO-Russo war. And one of the tricks that the CIA, I've been talking about this a lot over the last few weeks, is that the alleged death toll of the Russo-Ukrainian war is at 140,000. And so roughly 170 to 150,000, just for round numbers, have allegedly been killed. I'm of the opinion that these numbers are grossly hyperinflated, and that the reality is that the CIA has developed a standing army, what I'm calling a shadow army, of roughly 150,000 Ukrainian troops that are going to be used in a major false flag, similar to the Gleiwitz incident that started the war between Russia and Germany in World War II, where German soldiers dressed up in Polish uniforms and attacked a radio station. So basically, the CIA is planning on staging an epic false flag, possibly the biggest false flag in history, by dressing up 150,000 Ukrainian troops, possibly paratroopers or airborne assault troops, and then dressing them up in Russian uniforms and have them attack a NATO nation. They also may take these Ukrainian troops and drop them behind NATO lines and have them um, invade Russia, so it appears, and attack Russian forces on the NATO-Russo line, possibly in Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Finland, Poland, etc. Or they may ship them into the United Kingdom, targeting Scotland, Wales, Ireland, Northern Ireland, the British Isles, England, or Scandinavian countries such as Norway, Sweden, Finland, or Denmark, and then claim that this is a Russian attack. Iceland, Canada, United States also is a realistic possibility. But so they're going to use these troops to attack Russia, or they're going to attack NATO nations and say it's a Russian attack. Either way, they plan on sort of doing World War III via the Shadow Army. Like I said all the time, if you hear the language of Ukrainian or Russian, only a trained ear can hear the difference. And if they're speaking Ukrainian and they're in Russian uniforms, people are going to take it as a Russian attack. And then once this war starts, it's going to go nuclear virtually instantly, and so nobody will be able to figure this out in the aftermath. So as with all terror attacks, assassinations, wars, it always has the numeric signature of the CIA in Switzerland, which is orchestrating it. This is, if you ever watched the show Dexter, or you know anything about serial killers, they always have, they leave their mark, their signature, if you will. And so in respect to all the mayhem that comes out of Switzerland, they always leave their mark on their attacks, and that's how we know that it's them. It's always the same. So, for example, if I say that the CIA is going to stage a NATO attack or false flag as pretext for World War III on the date of February 4th, that might sound like an asinine idea, but when we look at the numerology, it's crystal clear. For example, the date of February 4th, aside from the 2-4, so the number 4 is the Swiss cross, which is found on the flag of Switzerland. The number 2 is symbolically a Z, which is equates, the 26th letter is Z, which is an acronym for Zionism. So aside from that, the number 24 equates to the letter X, which is the international symbol of death. Also, the date of February 3rd marks exactly 34 days since Guy Parmelin became president of Switzerland, which is home to the CIA. So the number 34 equates to C4, which is explosives because they're going to blow shit up on this particular date. Secondly, the date of February 4th marks exactly 141 days since the CIA staged Zapad 2025, which featured, coincidentally, 150,000 Russian troops executing a chemical, biological, and radiological military exercise in the nation of Belarus. So if the CIA stages a false flag Russian CBRN attack on Europe, they'll say that this is where they practiced it. And so 141, this is the number that is found in the motto of Switzerland, all for one, one for all. And this notion is corroborated by the fact that the date of February 4th marks exactly 1,441 days since the CIA staged the Russian attack and invasion of Ukraine back on February 24th, which has the same numerology as the date of February 4th, in 2022. And again, we have the all for one, one for all number 1441. Lastly, the date of February 4th marks exactly 4,367 days since the CIA staged the Russian attack and invasion of Crimea back on February 20th of 2014. And of course, this number has the 3-7 numerology. 3 times 7 is 777, which is found symbolically in the tetragram of Yahweh, which is the highest god in Judaism, and Switzerland is the first Jewish state. Lastly, in respect to the Iranian war, which is going to be between the United States and Israel, or between the United States, excuse my Freudian slip there, but between Iran against the United States and Israel, um, we also see the CIA numerology. For example, um, the date of February 4th marks exactly 38 days since the CIA staged the Mossad-backed riots. So basically, the Mossad is inside Iran right now because Israelis have multiple passports. They have Iranian, whether real or fabricated. They have Iranian passports. A lot of the darker Israeli Jews could pass as Arabs, and so they've been infiltrating Iran and destabilizing it because they're trying to smash Iran against the United States. So the date of February 4th marks exactly 38 days since the CIA staged the ongoing protests in Iran back on December 28th of 2025. Of course, the number 38 equates in the English alphabet to CH, which is the abbreviation for Switzerland in Europe, which is Confederation Helvetica, which is the original name of Switzerland in Latin. Also, the date of February 4th marks exactly 236 days since the CIA staged Operation Rising Lion, which was the preemptive Israeli attack on Iran back on June 13th of 2025. Of course, the number 26 equates the letter Z in the English alphabet, which is an acronym for Zionism, and that is the political motivation behind this impending war. Also, lastly, the date of February 4th marks exactly 13,394 days since Ali Khamenei became the supreme leader of Iran back on June 4th of 1989. Of course, the number 13394 has the pi numerology 3.14, especially because the number 9 equates to the letter I, which doubles as the number 1. So we have 13314, which is pi 3.14, and then pi is abbreviated in the English alphabet, and it's in science as the letter P. And of course, this is found on the logo of the CIA in the 16-pointed star. So these two wars, the NATO-Russo war and the Iranian war, is going to be most likely executed with a false flag, either using the Shadow Army or using Israeli forces around the world. And although an Iranian attack on the United States forces in the Middle East, such as their military bases and/or the USS Abraham Carrier Strike Force 3, which is aircraft carrier, and its armada, which is currently in the Arabian Sea. There's also the possibility that the CIA is going to stage a U.S. or Israeli preemptive attack targeting nuclear reactors or Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, where he's allegedly holed up in a bunker. So there's a possibility that the CIA will stage Iranian 9/11 style nuclear attacks, nuclear ICBM strikes, terror attacks in the Middle East, Israel, United States, Europe, etc. But it's also possible on the date of February 4th that the CIA is going to stage a joint or solo attack or invasion of Iran. And regardless of what happens, what's going to happen immediately after that is going to be that all hell is going to break loose. So regardless if Iran attacks Israel or the United States, or Israel attacks Iran, or the United States attacks Iran, or they get some Arab allies to throw at Iran, regardless of the scenario, there's 4 major scenarios that are likely going to develop in the hours after this event on February 4th. So, because recent reports coming out of Iran are stating, and obviously this is all fabricated Israeli intelligence, which is an oxymoron, but because it's just propaganda, but they're stating again that Netanyahu and his minions, his henchmen, are stating again that Iran is rebuilding the previously bombed nuclear reactors or nuclear program in Fordo, Isfahan, and Natanz. So back on June 22nd of 2025, U.S. President Donald J. Trump ordered B-21 bombers to drop a bunker buster bombs on all these nuclear sites. So because the whole Iranian nuclear program thing is a hoax, now they're saying again that Iran is rebuilding and they're releasing satellite photos and all that kind of shit. So this attack, so if they attack Iran's nuclear program again, which would be the third time, because first Israel during Operation Rising Lion, they attacked nuclear scientists, then the United States attacked nuclear sites. So the third time's a charm. So this impending event, whether it's an Israeli offensive against Iran or an Iranian offensive against the United States or Israel, regardless of what happens, the CIA is going to claim that during the attack or the war or the bombing or whatever, that nuclear bombs or nuclear material exploded. So a realistic scenario is that the United States or Israel attacks Iran, and then suddenly all these nuclear eruptions happen across Iran. Also, in the event of a war, an Iranian war with Israel and or the United States, regardless of who starts it, this is going to greenlight the Israeli Mossad and the Israeli artillery forces in Shevat, Israel, to launch either 9/11 style nuclear terror attacks targeting skyscrapers, stadiums, capital cities around the world, and or alleged Iranian nuclear ICBM strikes targeting New York, Washington, London, Paris, etc., Tel Aviv. So regardless of who starts the war, in the immediate aftermath, there's either going to be nuclear attacks, nuclear bombings happening in Iran under the guise of nuclear explosions caused by the war, or the CIA is going to stage 9/11 style or ICBM strikes as pretext for full-scale World War III. In the event of an Arab coalition of the willing attack on Iran, or an Israeli attack on Iran, or a United States attack on Iran, what's likely going to happen immediately after that is that Iran which has a massive army apparently, they're going to basically invade Israel. And this is specifically to attack and invade and bomb Israel. And this is specifically designed to bring about the so-called Battle of Armageddon, which was foreshadowed in the book of the Bible entitled Revelation, chapter 16, verse 16. Of course, this number 16 is also symbolically the CIA, because that's a 16-pointed star. But regardless, and then of course the United States will be forced to come to Israel's defense, and then Russia will get involved, because which is the last option, is that regardless of what happens in the next 24 to 48 hours regarding Iran and the impending attack, which is going to trigger this, whether it's a false flag terror attack, an act of war, or a full-scale attack and bombing or invasion, Russia is going to come in on the side of Iran. So the head of the Iranian intelligence just was in Moscow, Russia, just a couple days ago. And so this is designed to foreshadow this event where Russia is going to jump in. And because the United States has military bases littered across the Middle East and the Mediterranean, the CIA is going to stage attacks on most of them, or not all of them. And they're going to say it's Russia. And then the United States will go into war with Russia. So a two-front war between Iran, Russia, the United States, and Israel, and NATO is imminent. And this is basically going to trigger all-out World War III, and then other nations will follow suit. So anyway, just to recap, what I'm calling Day X is that the CIA is going to stage a military offensive to basically trigger World War III and respond to a second global biological pandemic on the date of February 4th of 2026. So obviously, if this happens in any way, shape, or form, or if the CIA stages any sort of acts of terror, acts of war, declarations of war, invasions, or bombing attacks as pretext for World War III on this particular date, know that it has a numeric signature of Switzerland and her CIA, which is orchestrating this they're funding it. The Swiss banks are funding all these countries. The United Nations, the World Health Organization, all these groups are headquartered in Switzerland, and her headquarters are in Geneva, and she is the one that is the secret hand behind all the puppets that is moving. That's why the cross of Switzerland is what you would use to move the puppets around. And that's not a coincidence or an accident, because they're the ones that are orchestrating. That's why Switzerland is the only allegedly neutral country in the world, because she is anything but neutral. So we're going to see this manifest itself in reality on the date of February 4th. So like I said, if this happens, I kindly ask you to download this video and share it with local, state, and federal law enforcement, military, and intelligence officials, as well as with local, national, and international